The ground was dry and cracked as the human stepped carefully through the ruins of the alien city. He wore an old backpack and carried a metal rod in one hand. Dust and ash blew around him as he searched broken buildings for supplies. Everything looked dead, but then he heard something. A soft growl, almost like an animal. He froze, eyes scanning the shadows. The sound came again, low and weak. It was not a machine, not a beast. It sounded like someone in pain. He followed the noise down into a cracked tunnel where the air was colder. There, behind a thick cage made of alien metal, he saw her. She was sitting on the floor with her back against the bars. Her skin was pale gray, almost white. Her clothes were torn, and her hair hung like tangled threads. Her eyes, when they opened, glowed red like dying fire. The human stepped closer, but she growled again. "Stay away." Her voice was sharp but dry like sand. He raised both hands, showing he meant no harm. "Are you alive?" he asked gently. She didn't answer. Her eyes followed him as he knelt beside the bars. She looked weak, like she hadn't eaten in days, but there was something dangerous about her. Her sharp teeth, her long claws. Still, the human didn't run. He reached into his bag and pulled out a bottle of water. He slid it toward her through a gap in the bars. She stared at it, then looked back at him. "Water won't help," she whispered. "It's not what I need." The human tilted his head, confused. "What do you need then?" he asked. Her voice dropped lower, filled with something between shame and hunger. "Blood," she said. "I need blood." He blinked, surprised. "You're a vampire?" She looked away, her face filled with pain. "Not your kind of vampire," she said, "but yes. I was born to drink blood." For a moment, the human said nothing. She expected him to run, to leave her there. Instead, he slowly pulled back his jacket and touched his neck. "What if I let you drink a little?" he asked softly. Her eyes snapped to his throat, glowing brighter. "No," she said quickly. "I could hurt you." He gave a half smile. "I've been hurt worse," he said. "If it saves your life, it's worth it." Her body trembled as she crawled to the bars. Her hands gripped the metal like she was afraid to move. "Just a little," she warned. "I don't want to kill you." He nodded and leaned forward. Her mouth opened, and he saw the fangs. She was faster than he thought. In one motion, her fangs sank into his neck. He gasped as he felt the pain, then a strange warmth. She drank, but only for a few seconds before pulling back. Her eyes were wide, her lips red. She stared at him like he was something impossible. "That taste," she whispered. "It's not like alien blood. Yours is different." He touched his neck, blood running down slowly. "Are you okay now?" he asked, voice steady. She looked at her hands, her arms, then back at him. "I feel stronger," she said. "But that's not all. Something's changing inside me." He looked around and saw no key, no controls for the cage. "Why are you locked up here?" he asked. She looked down, eyes filled with hate and sadness. "They were afraid of me," she said. "Afraid of what I might become," he sighed. "Do you want to get out?" She looked up sharply. "Yes," she said. "More than anything." The human stood and studied the cage. He didn't know if he could break it, but he would try. "I'm going to find a way to open this," he said. Her voice softened for the first time. "Why would you help me?" He paused and looked at her. "Because you're not a monster," he said. "You're just thirsty." She blinked, surprised. No one had ever said that to her before. Most ran from her, most called her cursed, but this human. He sat with her, let her feed, and still stayed calm. Something stirred in her chest. Something strange and new. He turned to leave, to find tools or help. "I'll be back," he said. "Wait," she called, voice shaky. He turned around. "What's your name?" she asked. He smiled. "Cal," he said. She nodded slowly. "I'm Velra," she whispered. "Don't die before you come back." And for the first time in years, she hoped someone would return for her. The wind howled outside the broken tunnel as Cal returned. dragging a piece of metal piping and a power tool from an old maintenance room. His neck still ached where she had bitten him, but there was no regret in his heart. Each step echoed through the empty ruin like footsteps inside a tomb. Velra was waiting just as he had left her, sitting against the cold bars, arms wrapped around her knees, but this time her eyes were clearer. Her skin had more color, and her voice, when she spoke, was stronger. "You came back," she said, almost like a question. Cal dropped the tool beside the cage and gave her a crooked smile. "Didn't plan on dying just yet," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. He got to work, setting the tool against the alien lock and hoping it wouldn't explode. Sparks flew, and the cage hummed. Velra flinched at the sound, but didn't move away. "You don't know what I am," she said softly. "You shouldn't be helping me." Cal looked at her with calm eyes. "You already told me what you are," he said. "You're hungry, tired, and stuck in a cage." She stared at him, searching for some sign of fear or hate, but found none. He was different. Not like the soldiers who once chained her, or the scientist who cut into her skin. This man bled for her and still smiled. The lock cracked open with a loud hiss, and the cage door creaked wide. She didn't move. She looked at the open door like it was a trick. Cal stepped back, offering her the space. "You're free," he said simply. Velra stood slowly, legs shaking as she took her first step forward. As she passed through the bars, something inside her shifted. The thirst had faded just enough for her mind to be clear. But what scared her now was the memory. The moment she had bitten him, tasted his blood. It wasn't just feeding, it was something deeper. His blood had warmth, yes, but also something else. Energy, memory, light. She stopped in front of him, close enough to touch. "You didn't ask what I saw when I bit you," she said, voice low. He shrugged. "Didn't want to be rude," he said, trying to sound light. She shook her head. "I saw your past," she whispered. "Your fears, your hopes. I felt your kindness." Cal went still, his smile fading. He hadn't expected that. "You saw all that from a few drops of blood?" She nodded. "And you felt something too, didn't you?" He looked away, unsure of what to say. "When you bit me," he admitted, "it didn't feel like dying. It felt like being seen." Velra's hands trembled, not from weakness, but from emotion. She had never been seen. Not truly, always hunted, always feared. She reached for his hand but stopped just before touching him. "I didn't kill you," she said more to herself. "I wanted to, but I couldn't. Why?" He asked. She looked into his eyes, her voice barely a breath. "Because your blood made me remember who I used to be." Before she could say more, a loud rumble shook the tunnel. The ground trembled, and far above, lights flickered red. Warning. Sounds echoed through the ruins machine, still alive after all this time. Velra's face changed, her eyes narrowing. "They're coming," she said. "They followed my trail." "Who?" Cal asked, grabbing the tool again. "Hunters," she said, her voice sharp. "They won't care that you helped me. They'll kill you too." Without another word, Cal grabbed her arm and pulled her into the shadows. They ran through half-collapsed tunnels, her bare feet moving faster now, her body regaining strength. But even with power returning, she was still wounded, still tired. She stumbled once, and Cal caught her, holding her steady. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, gasping. "I need more blood." He stopped in a quiet corner and looked down at his arm. "I've got more," he said, pulling up his sleeve. She stared at him, shaking her head. "You've already given too much." He didn't move, just held his arm out. "You saved me too," he said. "I didn't do anything," she whispered. "You didn't kill me. That counts." Her hands touched his wrist gently. Her fingers cold. She bit down slower this time, softer, not hunger, not rage, just need, and something more. When she drank this time, their minds touched again. He saw flashes her home world, fire in the sky, the screams of her people, the chain around her throat. She saw him as a boy, lost in the woods, saving a wounded dog, crying when it died in his arms. Then the bond broke. Velra pulled away, wiping her mouth. She looked stronger now, eyes glowing. Skin warmer. "Thank you," she said, her voice full of meaning. "You're welcome," he replied, then added with a grin, "Do I look pale yet?" She smiled, her fangs hidden this time. "You look alive," she said. But the hunters were still coming, and if they found them, no blood would save them. The moment the wall behind them shook, Cal knew they had seconds, not minutes. Velra's hand was already on his arm, pulling him forward before the dust had even settled. Bright lights flashed behind them, blue, cold, and hunting. Voices followed, mechanical and sharp, speaking in a language he didn't understand. But Velra did, and the fear in her eyes said everything. She didn't explain, didn't need to. They ran, breath echoing through the old metal halls. Every step sent pain shooting up her legs, but she kept moving. Not just for herself now, but for him. Cal kept pace beside her, helping when she staggered. He didn't ask questions, not yet. They ducked into a side tunnel, small and tight, the lights behind them still growing. Velra pressed her back to the wall, eyes glowing in the dark. "They're not just here for me," she whispered. "They saw the bond." Cal frowned, breathing hard. "What bond?" "When I drank your blood," she said, "it connected us. Not just in memory, but in signal." He didn't understand, but he nodded anyway. "You're saying they can track us?" She looked away, ashamed. "Track you," she said, "because now you carry part of me." A metal whir filled the tunnel, followed by a sharp buzzing sound. Drones, round and sleek, slid into the narrow space, scanning. Velra didn't hesitate. She pushed Cal behind her, claws out. Her hands moved fast, slashing through the air with unnatural speed. One drone fell, sparking. The other darted back, but it had already seen them. Velra turned to him, her voice low and urgent. "You shouldn't be here." "I'm already here," Cal said. "We finish this together." Something in his voice made her chest tighten. Not fear, not thirst. Something warmer, deeper. She led him through a collapsed hatch, into a chamber filled with broken tech. Screens cracked, wires hanging like dead vines. She dropped to one knee, placing her hand on a glowing console, her eyes closed, lips moving silently. Cal watched as the screen flickered to life, showing maps, symbols, faces, hers among them. "They marked me as a threat," she said. "My kind were called weapons. But we didn't ask to be made that way." Cal looked at her face in the corner of the screen, marked in red. She looked so different there, angry, wild, dangerous. Now standing before him, she looked tired, but real. The sound of boots came. Next, heavy and fast, Velra's eyes snapped open. "They've sent hunters, not machines this time," she said. "They want my head for a reward." Cal pulled a pipe from the wall and held it like a bat. "I'm not letting them take you." Velra blinked, surprised. "You'd fight them for me?" He nodded once. "You fought your hunger for me." Before she could speak, a figure entered the room, tall, armored, and holding a weapon that hummed with energy. He didn't ask questions, he didn't give warnings. He just raised the weapon and fired. Velra tackled Cal to the ground just in time. The blast hit the ceiling, showering sparks down like a second sun. She rose to her feet, hissing, eyes burning red. The hunter stepped forward, speaking in that sharp, cold voice. "I only need her," he said. "Leave now, human, or die with the creature." Cal didn't move. Velra stepped in front of him again, body tense. "You want me?" She shouted. "Come and take me." The hunter charged, fast, but she was faster. She leapt at him, claws glowing with strange red light. They clashed, metal against flesh, weapon against will. Cal watched, helpless, as the fight blurred in front of him. Velra screamed as the hunter struck her shoulder, but she didn't fall. With a cry, she drove her claws into his chest plate and sent him crashing backward. He didn't rise. She turned to Cal, breathing hard, blood dripping from her arm. "I told you. I'm dangerous," she said. He stepped to her, gently touching the wound. And I told you. I don't care. She stared at him, stunned by the softness in his voice. No one had ever said that to her. Not even her own people, outside. More. Footsteps echoed, more hunters closing in. But in that moment, in the silence between battles, something new was born. Not hunger, not fear, but trust, and maybe something more than that. The cave was dark and quiet, deep beneath the ruins. Only the slow drip of water from the ceiling broke the silence. Velra sat with her back against the cold stone, her injured arm wrapped in torn cloth. Cal was nearby, lighting a small fire from scrap and wire. His hands shaking from the cold, neither of them spoke for a while. The air between them felt heavy not with fear, but with something unspoken. When Velra finally looked at him, her voice was softer than before. I haven't been in the dark with someone. Without chains. In years. Cal glanced at her, the flames dancing in his tired eyes. Do you remember what it was like before all this? He asked. Velra didn't answer right away. Then slowly, she reached into the past. I was born on a red world, she whispered. The skies were always warm, and our people lived under the ground. She closed her eyes, remembering the soft hum of power in the old tunnels. We drank only when the stars faded, when the thirst grew. But it was always shared, always gentle. Cal listened, imagining a life so different from his own. We didn't take without asking, she said. Until the humans came. She turned to face him, eyes shining in the firelight. They said we were monsters. They called us vampires. But they were the ones who burned our cities. Cal didn't argue. He'd heard the old war reports, the stories of blood drinkers and alien threats, but now, sitting beside her, nothing about her felt evil, only broken, and still surviving. I was captured young, Velra said. Put in a lab, studied. Drained. Her fingers trembled as she remembered. They made us drink artificial blood. It burned from the inside. And when we screamed, they wrote it down. She looked away, blinking fast. I watched my sister fade in a cage beside mine, and I couldn't save her. Cal reached out slowly, placing his hand over hers. She stiffened at first, but didn't pull away. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Velra looked at their hands, then at his face. You should hate me, she whispered, but you don't. I never hated anyone who needed help, he replied. Suddenly, Velra's body tensed. Her head tilted slightly, as if hearing something deep underground. What is it? Cal asked quickly. She stood slowly, eyes glowing brighter. There's something old here, she said, something buried. I can feel it. She moved toward the far side of the cave where black stone met ancient metal. Her fingers brushed against it, and the surface responded with a faint hum. Cal stood up, watching as strange symbols glowed under her touch. I know this, she whispered. It's from before the war. The wall pulsed, then cracked open with a low hiss. Behind it was a narrow tunnel, lined with soft blue lights and covered in dust. Velra stepped inside without fear, like she was walking into a memory. Cal followed close behind, uncertain but curious. The hallway led to a small chamber with a broken seat in the center and walls covered in red crystal. This was one of our memory rooms, she said, a place where knowledge lived. She walked up to the seat and pressed her hand against the armrest. A flash of light filled the chamber, and the crystals came alive. Images danced in the air, her people, her city, her family. Cal saw her as a child, running under stars, laughing, her fangs hidden by a smile. Then fire rained from above. Humans in armor stormed the tunnels, and everything burned. Velra stepped back, her eyes full of tears she hadn't allowed in years. I thought those memories were gone, she said. Your blood brought them back. Cal looked at her with quiet shock. My blood did all that? She nodded. It didn't just feed me. It opened something. Something lost. The crystals began to crack, the old energy fading fast. The memory room was dying, just like the city above. But in that moment, she didn't feel like a monster. She felt like someone who had once been whole and now had a Chance to be again. She turned to Cal, her voice firm. They'll keep hunting us. But I won't run anymore. He nodded, standing beside her. Then we stand together, he said. Velra gave a small smile, not sharp, not dangerous, just real. And for the first time since the cage, she felt like more than just a survivor. She felt alive. The first sign was her hands. They began to glow in the dark, not with bloodlust, but with something brighter. Cal noticed it as they climbed out of the memory chamber. Moving deeper through the ancient tunnel, Velra's fingers shimmered faintly. And when she touched the walls, they responded, soft pulses echoing under her skin. She didn't say anything at first, but her steps slowed, her breath shorter. Cal stopped and turned to her. Are you okay? He asked. Velra stared at her hands, the light growing stronger now. I don't know what this is, she said, but it started after the second time I fed. She raised her hand toward the tunnel ceiling, and a wave of blue light followed. The walls hummed in response, old machines waking like sleeping giants. I shouldn't be able to do this, she whispered. This kind of power. It belongs to the elders. Cal stepped closer, his voice calm. Maybe you've become something new. Velra shook her head, confused and afraid. It's your blood, she said. It's not just keeping me alive. It's changing me. Cal frowned, trying to understand. What does that mean? She looked at him with glowing red eyes. I'm becoming more than vampire. I'm becoming something not seen for thousands of years. Before either could speak more, the floor shook beneath them. A massive noise echoed behind them, followed by a deep, grinding roar. Cal turned sharply. That doesn't sound like hunters. Velra's face darkened. No, she said. That's a sentinel. The word made Cal's stomach drop. What's a sentinel? Velra's voice lowered. A guardian left behind by the old ones. Programmed to kill anything marked as dangerous. She touched her chest lightly. I was marked. They ran through the tunnels, the glow from her hands lighting their path. But the roar grew louder, closer. Then they saw it. A huge shape made of stone and metal, crawling on 6 legs, its head shaped like a blade. It saw Velra and let out a high-pitched scream like twisting metal. Cal raised his metal rod, knowing it would do nothing. Velra stepped forward, light swirling around her hands now like fire. I don't know how to use this power, she said, but I'll try. The sentinel charged, stone legs crushing the floor. Velra raised both arms and shouted in a voice not her own. A blast of red light shot from her hands, striking the creature in the chest. It slowed, shrieked, but didn't stop. It lunged at her, and Cal tackled her out of the way. They hit the ground hard, the air knocked from their lungs. Velra groaned, pain flashing through her body. Cal stood over her, pipe in hand, ready to fight even if it meant death. The sentinel turned toward him, charging again. Velra's voice cracked through the air. No. The ground lit up beneath her, glowing symbols forming in circles. Her body floated slightly, hair rising like in water. Cal stepped back as the air thickened. Velra screamed, and the light exploded outward. The sentinel was thrown back against the wall, its chest crushed, its head split open. It sparked, twitched, and fell silent. Velra dropped to the ground, her body shaking, skin steaming. Cal rushed to her, pulling her up gently. You okay? She looked at him, smiling weakly. That was new. He held her close, feeling her heartbeat through his jacket. You stopped a machine that could have killed both of us, he said. She looked at her hands again, the glow fading. This power, it's not just from me, she said. It's us. Cal helped her walk as they moved farther into the tunnel system. She leaned on him, not from weakness, but from trust. Every few steps, the walls responded to her presence, lights turning on, doors opening. Something inside her had changed. And something inside Cal had changed too. He felt it, deep in his bones. Like part of her lived inside him now. Not just because of the blood, but because they had chosen to survive together. When they finally reached a quiet room with sealed doors, Velra turned to him. "We can't go back," she said. He nodded. "Then let's go forward." Behind them, the tunnel sealed, the past fading into darkness. Ahead, the unknown waited bright, dangerous and alive. And for the first time in both their lives, they weren't alone anymore. Asterisk, the sky above the ruins cracked open with the sound of landing thrusters. Red lights danced across the broken city as a transport ship hovered low. Inside, armed hunters, prepared for battle, their eyes cold, their orders simple: capture or kill. They had picked up the signal again, faint but clear. The vampire was alive and she was not alone. Below, Cal helped Velra climb through a cracked service tunnel leading to the surface. Her legs still shook from the power she used against the sentinel, but she didn't stop. She gritted her teeth, eyes glowing faintly, blood drying on her shoulder. "Why now?" she whispered. "Why after all these years?" Cal glanced back, holding her hand tightly. "Because you're not hiding anymore," he said. "And maybe that scares them." She gave a tired smile. "Good." They reached the edge of the ruins, where old buildings leaned like sleeping giants. Vera looked up and saw the ship through a hole in the sky. "They're here," she said. "They tracked you again?" She shook her head slowly. "No." "They tracked you." Cal blinked, confused. "Me?" She turned to him, her face full of regret. "The bond," she said. "It connects us now." And they learned to follow it. He stepped back slightly, realizing the truth. "They're not after just you anymore. They'll kill you to break the link," she said. Suddenly, the ship dropped lower, and ropes fell from its belly. Figures slid down, hunters in gray armor, faces hidden behind black masks. They moved fast, sweeping through the ruins like wolves. Velra pushed Cal behind a fallen wall. Crouching low, her breathing was calm, her eyes cold. "I won't let them touch you," she said. Cal reached into his pack and pulled out a small flash grenade he'd found earlier. "Then we do this together," he said. Velra looked at him for a long second. Then she nodded. Together. The first hunter came too close, stepping over cracked stone, scanning. Cal waited until the last second, then threw the flash device. It exploded with a loud bang, and the light blinded the hunter just long enough for Velra to strike. She moved like a shadow, claws slicing through the air. The hunter dropped, unconscious, his weapon sliding across the ground. But more followed. One shouted in their alien tongue, and two more charged at Cal. Velra leapt between them, roaring not with rage, but with something older, primal and powerful. She took one down, but the other shot her with an energy blast, sending her flying into the wall. Cal ran to her side, lifting her up. She was bleeding again, her skin cracked, her light fading. "I'm not strong enough," she gasped. He didn't think, he just acted. He pulled a blade from his belt and cut a thin line across his palm. "Drink," he said. Her eyes widened in horror. "No, Cal, you'll weaken." He repeated, voice firm. She grabbed his wrist with trembling hands and drank deeply. The bond flared to life again, stronger than before. She screamed and her eyes turned white. Energy exploded from her body, red and gold mixing like fire and blood. Hunters nearby were thrown back like paper in wind. Her wounds closed instantly. Her claws crackled with power. She stood tall now, glowing like a goddess of the old worlds. Cal collapsed to one knee, breathing hard. She turned to him, voice shaking. "You gave me too much." He looked up at her, smiling through the pain. "You needed it." The remaining hunters regrouped and opened fire, but Velra raised both hands, forming a shield of pure light. The bullets melted before they reached her. With a wave of her hand, she sent out a shockwave that knocked every hunter flat. Silence followed, broken only by the ship's engines as it began to rise. Retreating, they had lost. They wouldn't try again today. Velra dropped the shield and ran to Cal, who was barely sitting up. She held him tightly, her forehead against his. "You could have died, but I didn't," he whispered. "You gave me more than blood." She said, "You gave me reason." He closed his eyes, resting in her arms, and for the first time, The monster everyone feared looked more like a savior, and the human they chased had become her strength. The stars above were clearer now, the dust had settled, the hunters had left, and for the first time in years, the city ruins felt quiet. Velra sat beside Cal on the edge of a high platform, looking out over the broken world. Her glowing eyes stared at the horizon, but her mind was somewhere else. He rested beside her, his head leaning against a piece of metal, his body weak, but still breathing. "You should sleep," she whispered. Cal gave a slow smile without opening his eyes. "You said that 4 times already." She turned to him, her voice softer. "And you didn't listen any of those times." They both laughed, quiet and tired. The laughter faded into silence again. But it wasn't cold this time. It was peaceful. Velra looked down at her hands, the same hands that once tore cages apart. Now they held warmth, light, power she never understood before. "Do you think we can leave this place?" she asked. Cal opened one eye. "You mean the ruins?" She shook her head. "No. I mean this life. The running, the hiding, the blood and chains." Cal took a deep breath. "Maybe," he said. "Maybe not right away. But with you, I think it's possible." Velra blinked slowly, then reached for something in her coat, a small crystal shard, red, glowing faintly. "I found this in the old chamber," she said. "It holds knowledge. Names of those like me, others who may have survived." She looked at him with a strange expression. "If I go searching for them, I may not come back." Cal sat up straighter, surprised. "You're leaving?" She didn't answer right away. "I don't want to," she said finally. "But I feel like I have to. If there are more like me out there, alone, thirsty, hunted, I have to find them." Cal nodded slowly, pain flashing in his eyes. "I understand," he said. "Doesn't mean I like it." She leaned forward, placing the crystal in his hand. "But I want you to keep this," she said. "Why?" "If something happens to me, it'll find someone new. Maybe you." Cal stared at the crystal, unsure how something so small could feel so heavy. "I'm just a guy who shared his neck," he said with a weak grin. She smiled back. "You're more than that now." As dawn broke over the ruins, her body shimmered slightly in the light. She looked different, stronger, like a storm held in silence. She stood slowly and turned away, then paused. Cal watched her, waiting. But instead of walking, she turned back, dropped to her knees, and pulled him into a sudden tight hug. He froze for a second, then returned it. "You saved me," she said into his shoulder. "I think you saved me too," he replied. She pulled back, looking into his eyes. "Will you wait for me?" He nodded. "As long as it takes." She stepped back, and the light around her body began to rise. Wings of energy formed behind her, not physical, but real enough to stir the air. Cal shielded his eyes as the light grew brighter. Then, like smoke, she vanished into the sky. He stood there, long after she had gone, the crystal in his hand glowing softly. And even though he was alone again, he didn't feel empty. She would return. And when she did, she wouldn't be the girl in chains. She would be the future. And maybe, just maybe, she'd bring back others like her, no longer monsters, no longer feared, but alive. Cal looked up at the sky, then down at the cut on his palm, now healed. Her blood was still inside him, just as his blood was part of her. No matter where she went, they were one story now, one bond, and that bond had changed the galaxy forever.